Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Montessori Family Alliance. This is Lorna McGrath, your host for today, and I'm here with Christy, who is one of Newgate's toddler teachers. Anyway, she's here today. We actually will be recording this session, so if you can't listen to this live, please, in about a week, go to the Montessori Family Alliance Resource Center, and the recording of this particular session will be on there. It's toilet learning training, and I think we're going to go ahead and get started, Miss Christy.
Sounds good. So I'm going to start with, you can see the little boy sitting on the toilet there on the screen. And the biggest question sometimes people have a hard time understanding is what the difference is between toilet learning and toilet training.
Yeah, I was a little confused about that myself. You know, I'm from the old school, and toilet learning sounded funny to me at first. So let's just get talking about that.
It is something that sometimes is hard to understand, or you have to sit down and actually think about what the difference is between learning and training.
Yeah.
Kind of like this said.
Yeah, I kind of thought, you know, well, you say tomato, I say tomato. What's the difference between the two? I don't know. I mean, they're all tomatoes, aren't they?
Well, they are, but the main difference between toilet learning and toilet training is something that is completely adult directed, and toilet learning is when a child is involved in their own learning, and obviously more independence in that as well. Toilet training involves or can involve pressure on your child, and sometimes seems to be a quick fix. You know, we're going to sit on the toilet every 10 minutes, and yes, you know, or 30 minutes, or when the timer goes off, and they're obviously it's all the adults. The child's not doing anything there. Except for what they're being told to do. So can there be success with that when they're sitting every 10 minutes or 20? But it's all the adult, their body, and you know, choosing when to go. So it's all the adult choosing how needs to go to the bathroom. Which how can they know when the child needs to go to the bathroom?
It's like anything else in Montessori. We always say, you know, we want children to learn. We don't have snack at a particular time necessarily, because we want the children to begin. I guess I'll go have a snack.
Exactly.
Or whatever it happens to be. And so I guess in this case, that's what you're talking about with toilet learning, is to kind of get more in tune with their own.
Another difference between toilet learning and toilet training is the adult's attitude, which can make a big difference for your child when you want this to be a positive experience for them. So that can make a big...
Let's take a look. Oh, yes.
Attitude.
There's attitude. I see it right there. I mean, sometimes like this little fellow, I think it's a little boy, it you know, kind of says, okay, well, see if you can make me, you know?
Yes, it becomes a battle, and, you know, a power struggle between the child and the adult, which is definitely something that will not help in this situation at all.
You know, when somebody said to me, and I think this is true, a person said to me, you know, the only two things that a young child, really can control is what goes in their mouth and what comes out the other end. And so if you set them up for a power struggle about this, it can lead to real situations and problems, can't it?
Yes, and you know, the attitude is, you know, having to do it now, you know, so when that timer goes off, or when I say let's go, you know, they almost feel like it's a punishment instead of just choosing when their body is ready to go.
Right.
And so we use a lot of listening to your body when we're talking with the children in the classroom, and reminding them, remember, you have, you know, underwear on. We need to make sure we listen to our body.
Okay. So that
way you're putting it back onto the child. So you never want that power struggle.
So the other two pictures here, this one's the one on the potty chair is very pleased.
Yes, very excited.
And it's interesting too, because they do have that curiosity, the child that's looking in the toilet, about, oh, something came out or something's in there.
I've
or,
seen them wave
or
to
nothing's
it
in there.
and say goodbye.
Yeah. All right. So attitude, we want to help the children learn to listen to their bodies, but not push them into a corner and set up power struggle type situations.
Exactly.
Okay.
Language. This is another big part of the toilet learning process. You want to make sure that you're comfortable with the body parts and things like that. We use real words. So, an elbow is an elbow, just like little boys have penises, they have penises. And when we're talking bodies and going to the bathroom, you want to make sure you're using the real words. So, the world understands them if they're in a classroom, if they are using shoo-shoo and wee-wee or whatever language you may have in your someone else may not understand that if they're in a classroom or in the real world when they're looking for a bathroom or such. So you want to make sure you're using real language with them and that proper vocabulary. And you also want to make sure that when you're doing things that you're clear, direct, and always positive. So when going back to the timer going off and you're going is that's where I need a child or would like a child to sit. It's not, I never ask, do you need to go when I'm starting off, which you think, well, then how are they listening to their body? But if I feel like it's time, I might just be like, oh, guess what, it's your turn. Let's go sit on the toilet. So it's very positive. It's clear and direct. I'm not asking them. At the same time, no child is ever forced.
Right.
So you want to be clear, direct, and positive and hopes that they go with it. And most children will if it's just, there's no, you have to do this now, and if they say they don't have to, or they go in and they're like, I don't need to, that's when I would remind them to listen to their body and,
it's their turn.
And that's fine, we'll try again later. Or if
Yeah.
I don't have to, sometimes if they right away are like, I don't need to, I may say, well, let's just sit and see if anything comes out.
Right.
You don't have to go.
Yeah.
But let's just sit and see if anything, because the biggest thing, too, is that they're comfortable sitting on the toilet. So that's another.
I remember another thing, too, that somebody said to me once. all these words of wisdom are coming to the mind. But and this was really not necessarily about toilet training per se. It certainly could be toilet learning. But it was about if you ask a yes or no question, then you need to be prepared to accept the answer. So if you're talking to them about it's their turn to try on the toilet, and you just say something like, do you need to go? But really what you want is for them to try.
Yes.
And they say, no, I don't need to go. Then you have to say to yourself, well, then I have to respond. A yes or no question. So I think that's what you're talking about too. Is you don't really phrase it as a yes or no question.
And kind of on that note too, you have to be careful when it's like clear, direct, and positive. Is that you don't? It's time to go sit on the toilet now. Okay.
Right.
You don't feel like you're asking a question, but that okay at the end
is a question.
And so you need to be careful that how you're wording it and making sure that you're not, that you are direct. With what you're saying, and make sure that everyone in the home or in their care understands the same language, and everyone is using the same language, so that way the child doesn't get confused at different times. So
yeah. I don't think this is in our slideshow, but it just popped into my mind. I know that one time we had a family that was very concerned about privacy. For their child, and generally in our toddler classrooms, not just at Newgate, but at other schools and training centers and everything, generally the bathroom door, if there is a bathroom door, it's usually open.
Yes.
And so we kind of struggled a little bit with that idea of privacy or not, or openness where the child could easily go in and out and that sort of thing. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I feel at the toddler age, when you put an emphasis on any of that, it draws attention to it. So I feel like that concern is all on the parent, and that the child child is, realize maybe if, say, they're an only child and they're a little girl, wow, the boy's standing up to me. But that's part of life and in learning, and I don't think it goes anywhere beyond that.
Right.
It's, nothing, it's just learning that we're different,
That's right.
and females have different parts than males, and so they use the bathroom a little bit differently. And having that door open and the easy access, one, it gives the teacher the ability to give them a chance to do it on their own, but be able to also be there if they need help or
Right.
assistance with anything.
Yeah.
But help them be more successful. If that door is closed or open, it makes it, I think, more difficult to have the success and the easy access to the toilet. So.
And there might be safety issues
Yes.
as well if the door were closed and child were in there by
Definitely.
themselves. So.
And obviously, in our school, once they hit the primary classroom, which is 3 to 6, the children do close the door.
Sure.
So it's not something that, we don't believe, or think there's a
Right.
time, but at the age of the toddler when you're beginning, there's really no reason
Okay.
in my mind.
Good. Thanks. Okay, so let's just think about some questions that parents might ask, or that kind of thing. Christy, is there a specific time when parents should begin to potty train? Is there a window of opportunity?
Well, it is. The biggest thing, like I said before, is you want the child to be comfortable on the toilet. So starting pretty early, you can begin without even really having any emphasis on anything going into the toilet. It's just being comfortable sitting on it. So in the morning when you wake up, go sit on the toilet before nap time, after nap time, before bed. Bath time is a good time to have them sit before they get into the bath, especially if the bath water is running.
Yeah.
Those things. You can use some of those tricks even as they get a little bit older. If they're sitting on the toilet and you're thinking they really should have something, I know their intake, just wash your hands while they're sitting there. Little
Right.
subtle things that can help them along the way. Children, once they're between 8 and 9 months, actually can start to have control of their bladder to the point where they could stay dry through the night. Type of things. It also depends on how much you're giving them to drink right before bed. If you're, at that age, they may still be breastfeeding right before bed or in the middle of the night. You can't expect, them to stay, have all of that. But if they're, doing that earlier on and having a fresh diaper before bed, there's a chance that they will be waking up dry. And so that's a good opportunity to sit because if they've slept all night dry. So it can start at that age. I don't personally think at that age a child, they don't have the language, they don't, but they still, if they start having that comfortable opportunity to be sitting on the toilet and things like that, then they can. Yes, definitely. The window, I really feel that you watch your child. They first, everyone thinks of the urinating is the first thing that comes, but typically on the toilet, the urine is the first thing that they learn to go on the toilet with, but their body has control of their bowel movements long before their urine, and understanding of when it's coming.
Wow.
So when in the big scheme of things you think about that, you see your child hiding in the corner, or you see the looks on their face, or and things like that. So one of the signs is knowing when they are having those bowel movements. So if you know that they have one every morning right after breakfast, then that's an opportunity to after breakfast if you feel that it's coming, or they shelf, and then as you see them going that way, use one of those direct, positive, and clear, let's go sit on the toilet, and and take them and excited about it. And obviously, if you know that's when they typically go, then that's a good opportunity to help them be successful. The window, you can lose the window a little bit. Doesn't mean that, just like learning a language, sometimes it's just easier. Obviously when they're younger than it is as an adult, if you and I wanted to learn a new language. So it is something to watch. You start to see the signs of them staying dry, hiding when they're going. Those are all signs. when you also have to make sure that when you see these signs and you're ready to try, that you go in committed, not just for one day or one morning. You to give it, I mean, I usually say a week.
Okay.
At least in your schedule, that you're committed, that you are going to be able to, stay home, have them not running all over town.
Right.
That way they can be successful and see how it goes. Sometimes my niece recently, showing some of the signs, they took a week, no success. She didn't care if she went, when she went, where she went, like in her underwear, if they were wet, if they weren't. And, and so they gave it a good 5 days, and she just didn't seem to care,
Yeah.
And so, they went back to the diapers for a while. And she knew where the underwear were and everything. And a couple months later, she wanted to wear underwear. And pretty much they tried it again, and she just did it. And she, in the classroom, she happens to be in my classroom at school here, and she takes herself and knows when she's going. And, that's one of those things about, if that had become a power struggle, it wouldn't have turned back around on her terms. So I think she was, within the classroom, seeing what I call positive peer pressure,
yes.
Other children going and observing and learning all of that. And then she just decided, I think I can do that. In my mind is what I think she would. And she did it. And she obviously had the opportunities and the environment to take herself and be able to do it on her terms.
Right.
And, every child has a different personality. So I think you have to take that into consideration too. If they're a big observer and wanting to make sure that they've got something mastered before they step right into it, then you may have one of those where they're showing the signs, you try it, they're not, and then, you just, we'll try again in a couple weeks. Or, if they don't want to wear the underwear within that time and they are choosing, it's made them upset because they're being themselves, then definitely stop at any point that the child seems, upset or anything, and wants the diapers back on, just go for it, and then say, we'll try again.
Yeah.
And the same thing, even when they do go, we try not to call them accidents, because they're not really accidents.
Right.
You've drank, you've eaten, and you filled your bladder, and now it's emptying. So the same thing, it's like, oh, we're all wet. We've got to clean it up and get some dry pants, and we'll try again.
Right.
And just kind of that. So there's not, it's not a punishment, and there's no emotional, attachment there to any of that.
Sure.
So that way the child doesn't feel like they've done something wrong.
Right. One of the questions here is, do we go right to underwear? And then also, I guess along with that, I would also ask, like, if your child is in a child care center or Montessori school, what do you do about that transition? And what are those? Oh, pull-ups. Are those pull-up things okay, or what are they?
In my opinion, there's no reason for the pull-ups. They're honestly not something that the child can easily pull up and down.
Okay.
I have found those that training underwear that are, so if they do start to go and stop, and they're in that learning stage, that it doesn't get all over the floor, or even if they're letting their bladder out, it actually does soak up some of it. Yeah. So typically much easier to pull up and down for the child. They have big waistbands, and they're easier for them to be able to manipulate on their own without having to have help. And that's the other thing, when they're going through this, you want to make sure that they have, loose, elastic-waisted bottoms, so that way they're not trying to unbutton or snap, and even if there is a teacher there, they don't have to have the teacher do it. You just want to make sure that you're setting them up for success.
Yeah, and independence.
Exactly.
And so some people I know, kind of go, well, we're at home, so I'll just let them roam around without any underwear or anything on. Is that a good thing to do?
At home, that's fine. I don't suggest sending a child. I know it depends on where you live and different state regulations within the environment, but at home, that's easy for them, so that way they can just go in and go, and they don't have to worry about the pulling up and pulling down. So the first couple of days of that, at-home commitment, then I feel would be okay at home. Then you go to just having them, just in their underwear. Like I said, in these training underwear, for instance, they are a looser fit and they're a thicker material, so they can do them pretty easily, and then kind of gradually get them into.
And definitely better for the environment.
Yes, definitely.
Books. Are there books that you'd recommend? Oops, no. Okay.
No, I thought we had.
At the end,
I think we have them at the end. Yeah. I actually don't have them right in front of me.
Oop,
okay.
Here we go.
That way I don't give the.
Never mind, everyone.
I don't want to give you the wrong author. The biggest thing with books, I'll just talk while I'm figuring this out, is sometimes the books have a lot of the potty talk, I guess is what I'll say.
Yes.
And so you want to make sure that the biggest thing that we looking for books for toddlers, is something that's real pictures, or as real as can be. So the toilet awareness is a good one. And it is actually a book for the adult, and it's pretty short, and it's written by a Montessori teacher, toddler teacher, and that's a good one for you to look at beforehand. And it talks a lot about, like I've mentioned, the language and the positive and all of that. Everyone Poops is a good one if your child is having that struggle with the bowel movements on the toilet, which does come last. I mean, if you think about it, something is coming out of your body and falling. It can be scary, because until then, if they've only gone in their diaper, it stays right with them, so they don't feel that sensation. And a good one, it's got some pictures. It goes through all the different animals, and it's a nice one for any child that may be struggling a little bit with that or not. It just kind of talks about it and in a good way.
Okay.
Potty by Leslie Patricelli, if I said that correctly, is a good one. Some of the language is a little, the terms in that book are pretty good, but like I said, if you find the pictures, the child's looking at the pictures, you can read whatever words you want.
Right.
That goes for any book, not just with toileting. Sometimes, the story.
Up to a certain age.
Up to a certain age. You can, manipulate these books to work with your house or, your language that you're using at home. So you want to try to do that. It will help, obviously, with their understanding of all of it.
Sure. Let's go back to this slide. A lot of people, companies really want to sell their products, and there are lots of products out there. And so, parents often ask, do we need special equipment? Is there, stuff we should be buying? Because, we're told all the time we should be buying stuff all the time. So
definitely.
Talk to that a little bit.
You don't need any of it, obviously, but they, can come in handy in certain situations.
Sure.
Everyone's home is a little bit different. Everyone's toilets are different heights. So you want to make sure that if you have a taller toilet and they need your help, that if there's they sell some different step stools that actually have the handles on the side.
Yep.
Obviously,
kind
the
of
bathroom.
Like that one down on the left.
And they have that one looks like it almost attaches. So that way they have something to hold on to. The bathroom can be a very dangerous place, so you want to make sure that safety first. So if having a small like the one there in the center, maybe minus the princess crown, would be something that would be helpful. I don't really think it's necessary. I believe if you're going to use a smaller toilet, like one of the things that's in the pictures, in the bathroom is the best place, because that's where they're going to need to be going.
Exactly.
And as soon as you can help transition them to the real thing, they're more likely to not have that struggle when you're out in public. You're at the grocery store,
grandma's
house. You want them to be comfortable wherever they are.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I don't, kind of promote the special equipment. But in safety situations, it sometimes is.
I think that's down here in the
that
it's hard for us
sometimes
to
they're
see.
different sizes, but also they close slower. They don't slam, because the worst thing is for one of them to close that lid and smash their finger and then be scared of the toilet.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So some of those can help, so that way they, kind of alleviates some of that stress for the child to have against the toilet if they were to be injured or anything. So
I do remember a family we had here at Newgate years ago. They came through, and I think it was just an open house. I don't even think the child was in our school yet. And so we were, showing around like we always do. And one of the things that parents of toddlers like to see is the bathroom, because toilet training or toilet learning is part of that age. And so I showed them the bathroom, and of course here at the school we have the small toilet, so it's the children's right size. And this family was like, "Oh, look at that toilet! That's so wonderful!" They actually had the resources and everything, so they actually took an adult toilet out of a bathroom that I guess was near the child's bedroom, and put in a real toilet, small toilet. I think that's a little extreme.
It is, and you know what? They need the small toilet for such a short period of time in their life, in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't mention is when, obviously, when the child goes, if they do soil themselves, you always want them to sit on the toilet afterwards.
Oh, okay.
That when we were talking
How
earlier.
come?
Just to give the relation, so they can relate the two things.
Okay.
So
even though they're
connect.
done, they're connecting that having gone with going.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, we didn't do this in the language part, but is, you touched on it a little bit, but I think maybe it deserves a little bit more time, and that is, you said we shouldn't call it an accident, because it's not an accident.
Yes.
But how do we talk about you soiled your diaper, or some people use the term dirty?
Is there? I think, if they've let their urine out in their underwear, then you're all wet.
Yeah.
It's simple, and it's that they are wet, and so and then reminding them, let's go, sit, make sure it all came out. That's why you're going to sit, and reminding them to listen to their body, and that's it. You really just keep the emotions away.
Yeah.
And it can get frustrating as a parent when you're like, they're not having the success, and or you just sat and then you stand up and barely walk to the other room and then they go. So some of that happens, and it's tough to keep your emotions out of it.
Yeah.
But once you bring the emotions in, that's when it just becomes, it's so much more difficult on you and the child.
Sure.
Now we here at Newgate in our classroom, and I suggest in your own, like when we were talking about the language, is you need to put the urine in the toilet. We once again use real words. So that's something else that if you're using the terminology and everything, and just reminding them to listen to their body, and urine is sterile, so it's something they can clean up, and so it's not punishment, but when their clothes are all wet, struggling to get them off and getting dry clothes, they can be a part of that,
Yeah.
Here at school, I get a bag down, and and they put them in a little plastic bag, and their drawers are right there. We we'll get dry clothes, and it's just part of the day.
Part of the process.
Yes, and it's no big deal, and it's just something that happens, and
sure.
Sometimes it happens because they're learning in the beginning, and sometimes it happens because they didn't want to take the time to go. And so part of the if they're wet, not rushing them into dry clothes immediately, it kind of shows that, it's not necessarily quicker if you're in a diaper. That if you just take your time and come and use the toilet, then we don't have to go through this process. It's something they're learning without it actually being spoken.
I see. Okay, great. Well, that's a lot of great information for all of us, whether we're doing toilet learning at home or in a school situation. I like the idea of really helping children to get in touch with their own bodies. I think that that's such an important key to Montessori, and probably in other schools and certainly in homes, is you want your child to be able to be independent, to self-regulate, to be aware of how their body feels and what they need to do to take care of it. So I thank you for coming in today. This was a great session. Again, this will be posted on the website, Montessori Family Alliance, in about a week. So if you didn't get to listen to us today, you can certainly go there and listen to this particular webcast. So thanks a lot. Join us again another time.